Hey, it's Edna Keep here. Welcome to the Seven Figure Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Edna Keep with Seven Figure Real Estate, and today I have the pleasure to interview John Casmon. So John is a real estate entrepreneur who's partnered with busy professionals to invest in close to $90 million worth of apartment buildings. John also consults active multifamily investors to help them start or grow their business. And he hosts the Target Market Insights Multifamily and Marketing podcast and is the co-creator of the Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit, a no-pitch event to connect like-minded investors. So I wanted to talk to John today because I was actually on his podcast here a couple of weeks ago. And, in conversation, it just came up so interesting and really how close that we've aligned with even what we've been able to build. So, John, tell us, how long have you been working in the real estate world, and what's your background?
And now listen, I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you again. And we had a great conversation a couple of weeks ago and glad to return the favor. My background is in marketing. So I come from corporate America, worked a W-2 job, worked for big companies, small companies, but really always in marketing. And for me, I got into multifamily investing about 10 years ago, building my own personal portfolio.
Yeah.
And about 5 years ago, we started working with other investors to help them invest in commercial real estate. So as you mentioned in my bio, we have around $90 million worth of apartment buildings that we're a part of, and we helped other people invest in and looking to grow that.
That's awesome. So when you worked in corporate America, what kind of marketing did you do for people, and how were you able to transfer that over to your real estate business?
So I worked on big brands. So I was I worked at General Motors at one point, overseeing.
Okay.
I was the ad manager for a couple of different brands like Buick. I worked on the Buick Pontiac GMC team. So we did everything from TV commercials to stuff for the dealerships and all sorts of things in between. But I worked on brands like Coors Light, Nike, Mountain
Oh
Dew,
yeah.
everything
Wow.
from cooler door decals. So if you ever go into a gas station and you go
Yeah.
up to that cooler door and you see the little stickers
Oh
on that cooler
yes.
door, it's called a cooler door decal. So we've designed those things
Oh,
all the way to huge multi-million-dollar events and road tours and Super Bowl activations. So I've done a little bit of it all when it
well,
comes
that
to
sounds like
real estate
a
or
lot of
marketing.
fun.
It was fun. It
Yeah,
was fun. You know what? I used to joke with my wife. She's got a finance background, so she does like auditing and CPA type stuff like that, right? And we used to joke because I said, listen, everyone, no matter what job you have, right? They're rough days. They're days where you're like, oh, man, this was a
Mhm.
tough one. But the good days, I mean, my good days were amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, amazing good days.
Yeah.
I'm hanging out with like 50 Cent on set for a video shoot, or I'm at the Super Bowl hanging out in the owner's lounge and at an owner's party or something like that. Or I'm shooting a commercial with some celebrities. So my good days were like really, really good.
Oh.
So I wasn't in a rush to leave. It was one of those things where, for me at least, as I got older, more mature, as my career developed, as I started to have family, one, I got to do a little less of that fun stuff, and I was doing more, corporate business stuff, like
Yeah.
P&Ls and, staffing and, negotiating our retainers and those kind of things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wasn't hanging out on set all day. Uh, the other thing that happened really was you just start to realize that those things became less important, and being around family, really owning my time, controlling the flexibility, those things became more important. And the real challenge for me was like, I was at GM when we went through bankruptcy, and I was at
Oh
an
yeah.
advertising agency that also, went through a bankruptcy and just closed shop. So I'd gone through that process myself a couple of times, and I just realized, listen, you got to pay attention and take care of yourself. You cannot hope that this job just takes care of you, or just constantly go from one job or one career to the next. You have to find something else that can at least supplement that income.
Yeah.
And multifamily investing did that for me.
Good. So how did you so when you're dealing with big companies like that, obviously there's a huge budget, and you
Yeah.
start doing the marketing for yourself. Because, I do believe that all of us are in the marketing business as much as we're in real estate or coaching or anything else. Because if we can't market ourselves, nothing happens, right? Nobody calls us. They don't just go to the yellow pages and phone us up. We have to market ourselves. How did you transition from big budget stuff to stuff you were able to use for yourself?
Well, that was a huge challenge because when I started out, I didn't see myself as a brand. I wasn't trying to market me. I wasn't in the business of being in front of camera, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
used to being behind the scenes, right? Orchestrating. So for me to realize that, hey, you need to tell people who you are. You need to tell people what you do. You need to tell people how you can help them. It was a little uncomfortable for me, even for the marketer in me, right? It was a little uncomfortable for me to position myself like that. But ultimately, you have to believe in what you're doing and the fact that you're helping people
Mhm.
and figure out how do you get in front of that? How do you tell that message? One of the big differences is the resources. I used to have, 5, 6, 7 figure budgets for the work I was doing for these brands. And when you go to really working on yourself, you typically have a 3 or 4 figure budget for the
Exactly.
work you're doing, right? So it's a
Yes.
little bit different. And from a personnel standpoint, starting out, it was me. I didn't have like a whole team of creatives and writers and designers and producers. I didn't have those resources available. So I really had to think through what was the best way to be efficient to get my message across there. And I would tell anyone who's looking to grow their business, whether you are a real estate agent, whether you are a real estate investor, whether you have a small business, a service business, anything like that. One of the things you have to do is get effective with your marketing. Where's your audience? Where are the people you want to engage with? Who needs your product? Who needs your services? And how do you engage with them with the benefits that you offer? If you can pair that together, hone in on your messaging, now you can really grow your business. And there are a lot of great tools out there for, smaller businesses and entrepreneurs, even solo entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
Facebook, Google Ads, they're very powerful tools. Social media, of course, is a great way to connect with people, but content marketing, kind of what we're doing right here with this
Mhm.
podcast, right?
Yeah.
This is a form of content marketing.
Yeah.
This is a phenomenal way of getting in front of people. So you want to figure out how do you connect with other people who are looking for the kind of services you provide. And that is really the best way for a small business to engage with other people, as opposed to if you're a big, huge company with 6, 7 figure advertising budgets, maybe you can buy TV ads and pay your way into the minds and hearts of people. But if you're a really small business, you got to kind of find a way to truly make a connection.
What do you think are some of the best ways that people can do that? So, I have a lot of students that are building what we've built. They're trying to attract deals. They're trying to attract investors. What would you say is the number one way for them to get started?
Well, that's a great question because I think it's easy to say, hey, do this and you'll connect with them. I want to start though by understanding who your, and I call them your target investor avatar is. And in this case, it may not be an investor, it may be a customer or client, depending on your business. But who is that avatar? That's the
Mhm.
first thing that you have to get clear. So I actually had a conversation like this with one of my coaching clients yesterday because he has a very different audience than many of the rest of my clients. So we had to talk about, hey, you can't just do what you see everyone else doing. You need to really think through one, where does your audience live? How do they like to spend their time? Where do they like to rest? What mindset are they in? Let me give you an example here. Let's say we're real estate investors. So for us, we partner with other people who like real estate, but maybe are a little too busy to be the active lead themselves, right? So they want the income that real estate provides, they want the appreciation, they want the tax benefits, but they don't want to be landlords. Those are the people we work with. And maybe they're busy professionals, full time jobs, kids, whatever the case may be. They know real estate works. They've read enough about it. They're sold on real estate, but just aren't trying to take on a second job. Okay. So
Exactly.
for those individuals, we know kind of where they live, how we can engage and how we connect with them. There's some people though who may not be sold on real estate. Maybe they just don't know this exists. Maybe in their mind, real estate is risky. Maybe their parents lost a house or they have some other issues or other concerns that you need to address. So you have to meet these people where they're at. So it really starts with who that avatar is. Who is that person? What's their challenge? And I went to a presentation. Man, I wish I could remember the guy's name. It was amazing. I want to give him credit for it. Um, I'll think about it. I'll tell you who it was.
Sure.
But they talked about how to create more effective messaging with people. And if you really think about it, I don't care what industry you're doing, there are 4 things that emotionally can drive a connection. Okay. And it's people's fears, their frustrations, their goals, and their desires. When
Mhm.
you talk to people and you can help them address their goals, their desires, their fears, and their frustrations, now you can actually engage and connect with them.
Yeah.
So, really, it comes down to understanding those things. It's going to be a little bit different. You and I can both be talking to investors, but you're based in Canada. There may be a completely different set of circumstances for a Canadian investor to want to invest in maybe US real estate or even Canadian real estate
Mhm.
than someone based in the US. Someone living in Los Angeles, New York, which are, high price markets where it's a little bit harder to own real estate in that local market, a little less cash flow. They may want to invest in the Midwest where I live, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Columbus.
Mhm.
So in that stake, you have to understand what their challenges are so you can create the right message. And then where that can be anything, really, honestly. It can be Facebook, it can be a podcast, it can be a blog, but you have to understand where they're at. If
Yeah.
you're talking to people who don't like to read because they're busy and I'm not reading a blog, then you creating a blog is not going to work. If
Yes.
you're creating a podcast for people who have no idea what a podcast is, that's not going to work, right? So you kind of have to really reverse engineer it to an extent to understand, like, hey, how do they consume media? How do they consume messages? What's my connection to them? And from there, you would build out a plan. So I really think a lot of things can work, but you really want to build it almost from reverse, right? Really starting with that avatar and then building it out from there.
Yeah, and lots of times I always tell my students, it starts with you. You know, your story is going to resonate with different people. Like I was a single mom, and it's amazing how many single parents I get across, connect with me, whether it's moms or dads or single or divorced or lost a spouse, that sort of thing. But they connect with me because we have some stories. Even started earning very little money and now so that's where I find my students. I say, start with what you know. It might be, if you're a pilot, there's a ton of pilots out there make really good money, don't understand real estate. And so lots of times you can marry what your dreams are and your outside interests are with what else you're doing. Do you find the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. We are connected to people really through stories.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that allows us to engage. So, I tell people that you have to understand how to attract people into your business. And that whole thing with the avatar, part of that is understanding this. How do you connect with them? And we can have the same message, right? You and I can sit down and say, hey, we're both coaches. We both help people get invested in real estate. There's a lot of things there where, in some ways, we have a lot of the same fundamental things from a service. So, what's going to differentiate us, right? It's going to be our stories. It's going to be, how we engage. It's going to be our values, our principles. Let's go back to what I used to do in marketing. Okay.
Yeah.
Coors Light was one of my brands that I used to work on. Okay. Well, when I first started in Coors Light, I'll be honest, man, light beer to me, it all seemed the same.
Yeah.
I couldn't, if you put a Bud Light, a Miller Light, and a Coors Light in front of me, I couldn't tell you the difference between any one of them. Now, over time, I absolutely can articulate and taste all the differences,
Yeah.
but starting out, they seem the same to me. And I think for a lot of people, you don't necessarily understand the difference. So what happens, right? It's the marketing, it's the storytelling. We position that product to focus on a couple of key traits, like it being cold brewed and frost brewed, and it was cold, and everything was cold, right? So from the Rockies, it was cold filtered, it was all that stuff. And why? Because it was so refreshing.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point we were trying to convey. Miller Lite was a little bit different. It was more about not sacrificing taste, but also having less calories. That was always their positioning, right? So again, it's the story. You just talked about being a single mother. That's the thing that helps you stand out. As anyone who's watching us on video right now, you can see you have this lovely array of like pink and blonde kind of hair coming, a beautiful yellow dress. Like there's a bit of an eclectic feel to who you are, right? So that's going to resonate with some people in a way that my corporate W-2 working for the big box company, may not appeal to, right? That's going to be, those are almost like kind of conflicting backgrounds, right? I mean, I come from corporate America, W-2, by the book, GM, advertising, all of that stuff into entrepreneurialism, and you come from being a single mom and really building it out on your own as an agent and building through the real estate blocks, right? So that story is going to resonate with someone a little bit differently. Yes, we might be able to help that person in a similar way, but people are going to listen to you and listen to me, and they're going to figure out who they gravitate towards. And that's great. And that's the whole point. And I tell the biggest challenge that my clients face, I'm sure your clients face as well, is trying to be everything for all people.
Yeah. Because people are so scared they're going to miss out on the big picture if they focus niche down, right? But yeah,
that's exactly it. I tell them all the time, it's like, listen, you have to niche down to the point where you know exactly who you help. It's not to say you can't help these other people. Absolutely you can. And if they're attracted to you, it's something in your story, it's something in your business that attracts them. Yeah. We may not always know. I mean, you talked about the single mom. I talked about the eclectic nature. There may be other things that resonate about you that you're not even aware of. Yeah. And it's the same thing with any brand, any product. I'll take a Timberland, okay? Timberland boots back in the 90s, huge hip hop fad. They did not start out with that. They were mountain boots. They were for the outdoor people. Their marketing was for outdoor people. And the hip hop industry took it over. And everyone's rocking Timberlands. And the CEO was like, I have no idea why these people are wearing Timberlands, right? And it was one of those things where as a brand, you may completely miss an audience or a sub audience that really likes your product and adopts that. And as investors or as any business or any person, you may not know exactly why. And it's one of the things where you want to learn, hey, you guys seem to be really embracing my story or what I'm doing. I'm curious, like what was it that resonated with you? And there may be something that you just don't know. I mean, there are things that we know demographically, right? You're a woman. I'm an African American. So there are things like that I know some people are automatically going to connect with. But there are other things. I've talked about my corporate background. I talked about being a father. Well, I haven't, but being a father is huge for me. I'm a father of 2 young boys. So for me, it's my why. It's my why in the sense that I missed my son's 4th birthday, my oldest son. Okay. I was there for his party, and in his world, I didn't miss it. But in my world, I know I was on set for a commercial shoot that I couldn't get out of. And that was the last straw for me, because I tried to, I was a senior executive. We had, we were pretty slim as an agency at that time. I didn't have the support I was used to having. And we had a demanding client, and this was a big shoot for them. And I tried to get anybody else to go. I tried to get the CEO to go. And I was like, hey, man, I can't go. Can you cover this? He's like, no, you need to go. I'm like, nah, man, somebody else needs to go. And I mean, I went back and forth for a week, and I'm like, I think the team will be okay. He's like, nah, you need to go. You need to supervise it. And I just lost out. I had to go. And I remember being on set, and I FaceTimed my wife, and she's sitting there with my son, and, I see the cake come out and the ice cream or whatever. And they're at a restaurant. And I just remember feeling empty. And I'm in the corner, right? I mean, I'm on set. I go to the little corner of the set, and I'm sitting there on my phone. And I thought about my own personal definition of success. And it's not monetary. Success for me was always having the ability to be where I wanted to be when I wanted to be there. It's that simple.
Freedom of mind and body.
That's right. That's right. I was a kid whose parents worked extremely hard, but missed everything that I ever did. I didn't do very much, but whatever I did do, they missed. No fault of their own. They just worked. That was their priority. They had to put food on the table. Yeah. That's what it was. And it didn't affect me as a kid, I guess, but I think as I matured and got older, and I realized that not everyone grew up like that, I said, man, I really wish when I looked in the stands at one of my matches that I would have seen, my parents there. And I think subconsciously I made a decision to say, you know what? I want to be a present father.
I'm going to do things differently.
I'm going to do it differently. No judgment on them. But for me, I realized that it did drive me in a different way. I think it really did motivate me to create a different lifestyle. So in that moment when I'm sitting in the corner and I'm on the phone looking at my family while I'm on set for a commercial I could care less about, quite frankly, and I loved my job up to that point. But at this point, I felt like it was the devil, right? Not going extreme, but like this was taking me away from my family, And at that point, it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about anything else. and I was just frustrated. And the moment we we wrapped the shot, there was like some extra stuff they were going to shoot. I'm like, I'm out. I'm like, we got the video part done, the TV spots done. You guys shoot all the print stuff. I'm getting on the next plane. And I left. I said, I threw my hands up. That was the quickest goodbye. I got on the first plane. I left and went home, and obviously celebrated with my son for his formal birthday party. And no one ever, my wife, no one ever brought it up to me. But I think for me personally, it was just a moment. So I tell you that story because I want to illustrate just the way I look at being a father. And there are people who are, fathers and mothers, busy professionals who can resonate with that. And I think that's the whole point, is that you are who you are, and marketing is really just a megaphone. All you are doing is amplifying who that is. The true you, the true business, it's going to come out eventually.
Yeah.
This is not about some slick language or smooth, visuals. This is not that, okay? We're talking about the ethos of who you are, who your company is, what you're about, your value system, and being able to share that with other people, to invite them to join you if it resonates with them.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So how do people find you, John? This is going to resonate with certain people in my audience. How do people reach out, find you, follow you, and see where that connection takes them?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're interested in real estate and what we do from an investing standpoint, we have a sample deal on our website. It's probably the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
You can check that out. It's casmoncapital.com/sample deal, and it just breaks down like an example deal from a multifamily standpoint, what those deals look like. And if you want to check that out, you can go to that website. And then outside of that, for us, we have a show which Edna, you were a guest of. It's called Target Market Insights, the Multifamily Marketing Show. Check out that podcast anywhere you listen to shows.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be part of this journey with you too, John. I think there's stuff that's going to happen between us. We're just starting to invest more and more in the States. And it's funny. At one point, you mentioned about the New Yorks and the San Franciscos and how priced those are. That's actually happening in Canada too. The Vancouvers, the Torontos are just like outrageous. And we're in the Midwest too, or the Western, I guess, but more Midwestern. And, so it's so similar, but different targets. And that's one of the, things that resonate with me when we're talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's one of those things too, where I'm writing an article right now that hopefully be out early next week, but we're talking about just this mindset. And I know that you're familiar with this, but live wherever you want to live, but you invest where it makes sense. And I believe that you want to have a balanced portfolio. Yes, I'm a big fan of cash flow. So that's our guiding principle is cash flow first, appreciation second.
Yeah.
Just because I think that allows you to navigate any rocky waters. I mean, certainly there's some markets where there's great appreciation potential, but we can't bank on that, because if the market swings and we're on the wrong side, or we're at the height of the market when it swings, I mean, that's where people lose. I mean, we saw that happen back in 2008 and 2009. Mm-hmm. So you want to focus on cash flowing assets. You want to make sure that you are properly protected. And that's one of the things that we like to talk about with all of our clients as well, is like, hey, here's how you protect yourself. Here's how to look at deals so you can still get that upside potential. But even if that doesn't materialize, or at least is not as much as you'd like it to be, you're still protecting the deal. And I think that is a fundamental way to invest, where you can mitigate some of the risk that other people see.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, on the same page. So thanks once again, John. It's been my absolute pleasure to speak to you again. And let's definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on the show today. I appreciate talking to you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. It's my sincere intention that you got value from this episode. If you're interested in learning more about building your passive income through real estate, either by investing with us as a joint venture partner or as a student discovering how you can attract investors to your deals and build your own 7-figure real estate portfolio by helping others build their passive income, check out my website, ednakeep.com, or watch my free masterclass at ednakeep.com/90days to 5K.